their savior to be, as those guys are calling him. He was 4 for 6. He had some nice balls. I was going to say.
You just keep giving me stuff to quote, man. You just can't help yourself.
I can't keep it. It's like every week I come up with a new one. All right.
Yeah, this is right up there with the horny hair. Manhattan Bank has been serving the Gallatin Valley since 1905. Started by local farmers in order to help grow the agriculture industry, Manhattan Bank has since grown into a full-service bank serving the entire valley. With branches in Manhattan, Churchill, Three Forks, and Bozeman, you're never far from your local bank.
As banks are consolidating and changing, Manhattan Bank sets themselves apart through consistency and a small-town banking feel. Come see why we have been in the Valley for well over 100 years. Stop by the new building in Bozeman. See Justin Skillman and Tyler Dosher for your business banking and Brad Whitmer for your home loans. Go Cats.
Member FDIC.
Right on. Pump that, Thorny. Woo. All right. Welcome. Woo. All right.
Don't sue us. Oh, man. Woo. That's the way to set the energy for the episode.
Nice. All right. Hey, this is the R&R Catcast. Welcome, everybody. We are the Ryans. I'm Ryan Foley. He's Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans. We're part of the Big Sky Podcast Network, the Montana State affiliate, and we have a sweet sponsor, our Dink Bank and Manhattan Bank, taking care of all your banking needs in the Gallatin County. 4 locations over in Churchill. Let's see. I forgot those locations off the top of my head. Bozeman, Churchill, Manhattan, and Three Forks. I'll get that down one of these days. I'm just having too much vim pulsing through me right now.
Yes.
Thorny.
You can't think clearly with all the vim.
I apologize,
it's like alcohol.
Justin.
It impairs your judgment, right? Vim.
I will get that down, brother. But yes, Manhattan Bank, awesome sponsor for this year. Woo. Cat Griz, man. Let's go.
What a weekend, man. What a game. What an absolute blast to be in Bozeman. What a dominating victory. Life is good, man. Life is fantastic. It's good time to be a Bobcat fan.
One of the best I can remember. Just vim just pouring out of me.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, you would have never thought that we would see maybe another game like 2019. Because 2019 was kind of like the game Bobcat fans have been waiting for 30 years. And here we are, the next time we're in Bozeman, the exact same margin of victory, right? Insane. Yeah. Insane.
I was hoping we would get one more touchdown on them, or that they would not score one of those last remaining touchdowns, because I did want to set the record.
You did?
I mean, if I had a work upon, come on, Montana State, we could have beat them by more.
It's true.
But on that note, Vegan did not let off the gas. Attaboy, coach. Way to take it to those Grizzlies. I love that.
No,
man.
Man.
So good stuff.
Yeah, Vegan clearly had a statement in mind, and he executed. And we'll talk a lot about Brent Vegan, the impact of this win, the statement win. There's so much to unpack from this. We espoused a little bit on our Sunday night, quote, instant reaction show. This is going to be the fun episode. This is where we're going to just have some fun talking about Cat Griz.
Yeah. See, we're going to get into it real quick here. Like, we'll talk about what beer we have. We'll do a little bit of the normal stuff. I will touch on the FCS final football rankings of 2022. I guess it's not final before we get into the playoffs, and then we'll talk a little bit about the playoffs. I imagine Ryan and I will do a playoff episode next week when we learn who we're playing. It's either going to be North Dakota, the University of North Dakota, fighting Hawks.
Fighting Hawks.
They're not the Sioux.
Don't sue fully.
Or a rematch with Weber. That could be interesting.
Yeah. So
Could be interesting.
we'll talk a little bit about that too coming up, I hope.
All right. First, let's talk about what's in our golden coolies.
What's in your golden coolie?
There's not very much beer left in my fridge. So it's slim pickings in there. But this one actually fits. I thought of something that could make this fit for tonight. It's the Salmon Fly Honey Rye. And I figured it's a sweeter drink for a sweeter victory. That's all I got. It's a good one. Cheers.
I went and picked up a 6-pack of Moose Drool, thinking it's safe to drink Missoula beers again. And I haven't had Moose Drool in a while, and it's a good fall beer. So I got a sixer of Moose Drool. It's funny that I don't know what this is even called, the label. You can peel the labels off now. They're not like the printed on the can. They're the shrink wrapped labels. It's weird. So I got agitated and pulled mine off. Now I just have a silver can in my koozie. So there it is.
I feel like that's a you problem, to be honest.
So we're drinking 2 Missoula beers post Cat Griz. Is this a good sign or a bad sign?
Well, like I said, I didn't have any other beer, but that doesn't mean it's not a sign. But there wasn't very few choices over here. I haven't gone shopping for a little while on the beer front.
All right. Thorny, how much are you addicted to right now just looking at Bobcat Nation, Twitter, anything related to Montana State?
Extremely. I feel like there's not enough time in the day to read everything that I want to read. I want to read all the Bobcat articles. I want to watch clips from game day. I want to listen. Reese Davis put out his podcast that he does today, and he said in his tweet that they talked about Montana State. I haven't listened to it, but I want to. That's just another thing that I want to do. I want to less and less as the day goes on, but I still want to read all the sad Griz commentary everywhere on eGriz or Twitter or whatever. Mostly pro Cat stuff, but I am enjoying the angry, bitter tweets. Although they're not as upset anymore. They squeaked in the playoffs, so I think that kind of eased the pain over in Missoula. It reminds me of the 2006, how the Bobcats got in the playoffs that year. We lost to the Griz, I think 7-16 in Missoula, and you think the season's over, and then somehow the Cats end up hosting Furman in the playoffs, and that was our first victory since 1984. So maybe that's how it's going to go for the Griz. But yes, long story short, I am still absorbing every single piece of content I can, every single commentary, every single singular tweet that pertains to Cat Griz. I am just eating it all up at the moment.
You and me both. That's awesome, man. I remember that 2006 game. Jack Rolovich passed for a ton of yards. Big Lou Suacito, that's his name. He took the flag, the big Bobcat flag at the very end of the game, and was just planted on the 50-yard line, leaving that sucker, man. That was a big moment for Montana State. Hey, was it that year that the Cats went eventually to App State and got beat?
Yes. That was one of the
Michael Jefferson.
Yeah, yep. The Michael Jefferson reverse pass or whatever. I had 2 guys in his face falling backwards through an interception. Not like I still remember all these years later or anything. That was a crazy year in Bobcat football, man. You beat Colorado, Colorado Buffalo, and then you lose to Chatham State, and then you lose 3 in a row, culminating in a 0-45 whoop down at home against UC Davis when they were D2 or in the Big West or whatever. I'm not sure, but they weren't in the Big Sky yet. And then we just go on a tear. We make a switch. Rolovich comes in and wins a whole bunch of football games. We beat Furman, and then we head to App State, and we lose that game. App State was in the middle of their 4 national championships in a row run. But yeah, that was really a turning point for Bobcat football. Absolutely.
Yeah. That was the start of it. The big human at the helm.
Yep. And then
He's dynamic, man. I love listening to that guy talk. He's amazing. His voice.
I bet
the way he recalls things.
I bet he would come on the podcast.
That'd be awesome. Have you ever met people who can just recall dates? He can do that.
He can.
With alarming clarity. I couldn't tell you dates at all.
No.
He'd be like, yeah, in 1983 when I was in 4th grade.
I'll be lucky
Cheney,
if I can
Washington.
pinpoint the year of something I'm trying to recall. I was like 18 or 19 or somewhere in that range. I don't know. Like, I can't pinpoint months, let alone years.
Oh, man. Gosh, dang it. It's a good time to be a Bobcat, man. It just feels like you just want to sit back, crack a couple beers, and do exactly what we're about to do for the next hour. Just sit and talk Bobcat football with no agenda, no, just a wandering conversation about the state of affairs in Montana state land, where the Bobcats are at, reflect on the game. I mean, there's going to be no difference than you and I sitting down next to each other at a cozy bar, having a cold one, than you and I doing what we are doing right now, like 400 miles apart.
Yeah, cheers. I'm holding up my beer. You can't see it because you're listening to the podcast, but we're cheersing each other.
There it is.
There it is.
All right, Thorny, we got to start somewhere, man.
Well, why don't we start with me doing a little story time on my weekend in Bozeman.
Okay.
You want to start there? I feel like that'd be a good place
man.
to start. Got into town on Friday, and this is kind of the cool part. So I hooked up with, I think his name was Denzel. He was a game day producer, or a producer for game day, and he reached out to the podcast and told us he'd asked us to promote some of the socials to try and get as many people to the bus thing as possible, to the game day event. And he also said that we could have some VIP game day tickets or passes to the game day thing. And I, kind of asked him what that meant. It sounded pretty cool. And that's actually what kind of spurred me to go to Bozeman in the first place. I wasn't going to go for Cat Griz. When game day was announced, I got a lot more like, oh man, I kind of want to go, but you know what? I'm still not going to go. And then I get the VIP pass, and my wife is basically like, you're an idiot if you don't go. This isn't going to happen again. You should go. So she kind of pushed me, but met up with him at Worthington Arena at the basketball game because they were set up in a room there doing their thing there. Got the passes and went and watched Montana State beat Wagner Pacific, whatever that team was that they played on Friday night. And then between the men's game and the women's game doubleheader, they unveiled the conference championship banners from last year. So I got to be there for that. That was pretty cool. Then I met up with the friend of the pod, part of the podcast network, Montana Parlay of the Montana Mint podcast. I don't know if you guys check out his gambling advice. It's pretty entertaining. He's a pretty entertaining guy. Hung out with him a little bit at the Cat's Paw. Got to bed early because I wanted to get up nice and early to go to game day, which was it's pretty cool. It was pretty electric feeling. We got there with some buddies of mine. We got there like at 6:45, like we're walking up to the set, and you could just hear the crowd like cheering as you're like walking across Kagi. You don't know how many people are over there. You can see the set. You can see the lights on. You can hear people talking over the loudspeakers and then cheering. I'm like, you just get this excitement, man. Like, this isn't normal. It's like pitch black out. This is not part of the game. Something cool is going on over here. So I went over there, checked it out, and it was cool. Like, game day was really cool. It was fun walking around. I didn't get in the throng of people. We kind of hung out in the back by the band a little bit. Me and a friend of a friend were hanging out a little bit there. And it was fun, man. It was really cool seeing some of the big personalities that you are familiar with, like Kirk Herbstreit and Reese Davis and all the crew there. That was pretty cool. But man, the game was what it was all about. Tailgating, going to the game, going out after the game, after the big victory, just meeting up with people who listen to the podcast. I met up with Roger Fisher, who's someone who is a big fan of the podcast. We appreciate Roger's being a listener and always contributing questions and stuff like that. And I met up with some other people, and it was a blast, man. It was a great weekend. Met a lot of people, a lot of good Bobcat fans. Saw an old friend, watched the game with him. I haven't spent a lot of time with him since, I don't know, middle school. It was really cool. It was a great weekend. What a good time to be a Bobcat. And I had a blast. One of the best weekends I've had in a long time. One of the best Bobcat weekends perhaps I've ever had.
Definitely jealous. I was super happy for you. At first, I was a little upset that you weren't coming to Spokane for it. You were like, you bypassed me. You just went straight to Bozeman.
I think I saw you at the window.
Special. And my wife, she goes, aren't you going? She gave me one of those nods too. I was like, You don't spring this on me on Thursday afternoon. Like this is like, no, too much. So
That's when I pulled it
I
all
was
together.
watching
One day of insanity, trying to pull it together.
Well, a little bit kind of not gonna lie, Thorny. Every time you and I go to a game together, we lose. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to jinx this for us. This is a big game. There was that thought. But my sons had these basketball games, and my wife is like, I'll just take it in basketball. You're gonna stay here and watch the Cat Griz, aren't you? And I was like, oh yeah. And so I got to be home alone, which was good because in the third quarter, I just started just yelling, like whooping and just being like, flexing. I might have done the triple D, like, like cross the arms, like pow, kind of deal. And I was pretty obnoxious there for a little bit. So I'm glad my wife wasn't home for that, or my family or my kids to see any of that. I just got to be the weird old me and the confines of my comfy home, and I loved it. It was great.
Rank in.
I had like.
Go. I want to hear you. I want you to rank in order your preferred method of watching Cat Griz. Being there in person, watching it at home with me and your family, or just watching it all by yourself.
Probably watching it by myself would be the number one thing I like to do, because nobody can judge me for my weirdness at that point. And then I would probably pick, I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually been to a Cat Griz game. I used to go all the time. I used to be a season ticket holder when I lived in Montana, all this fun stuff that I don't have anymore. But I don't know, man. Having you there in 2019 was really fun. Like, that was really cool. Like, we didn't even get to podcast. We didn't even do like a live show or anything after that. It was just hanging out and just having you there. I mean, you're my Bobcat guy, man. You're one of my best friends. And so having you there was awesome. So that's always special, because when you meet a Bobcat fan, and I met a couple Bobcat fans this weekend, you kind of judge. You're like, how into it are you? And they're like, oh yeah, I've been kind of keeping up on it. I'm like, okay, so we're not going to we'll have a very topical conversation. Hey, do you know anything about Tommy Millot? What do you think about Coach Vegan? But then if I met a guy like you, like I would spend probably 2 hours in the instant just being like captured in Bobcat talk, and we would be like instant best friends. So having you there is pretty awesome too. So we'll have to do that again some year. I don't know what holds in the future where we'll be, but we'll be there. We'll do Cat Griz together.
We will, man. We will make it happen again. That was a blast in 2019. And funny enough, there's a lot of parallels between that game and this game. So clearly, whatever we're doing, it's working, because that's how it works, right? And I do want to give myself some credit here. When I booked my flight out there and I was picking my seats, there wasn't a lot of choices. One of the ones I saw on the way over, my leg from Bellingham to Seattle, was number 15. I picked number 15. That's an easy choice, Troy Anderson. The next leg was from Seattle to Bozeman. I saw number 23 sitting there, and I'm thinking, Jody Owens. All right, let's go. I got 15 and 23. Jody Owens and Troy Anderson, two of my favorite Bobcat players of all time. I booked those ticket numbers, so maybe that's part of it, too. Maybe that's part of it.
Oh, the seats where you're sitting, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the seats in the plane.
Ah, nice. I like it. I hadn't thought about that. I have to think about that next time we're going to a Bobcat game. We don't know where we're going next year. We still got to pick what game we want to head to next year. That's always the fun part. So, all right.
Let's do that.
We're going to get into the game, but let's take care of some perfunctory stuff that we normally do. Let's talk about the FCS football rankings. I'm just going to quickly go through them. Montana State comes out at number 3.
Feels so
Weber State number
man.
9. Yeah, right. After we got number 4 seed. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Idaho is at number 18, and the Grizzlies dropped down to number 19. UC Davis came in at 24th. So the guys that you thought would be there, except for maybe Idaho, Idaho Eastern flip. We've talked about that previously, but it's kind of how it shakes out in the Big Sky. Well, Sac State would be number 2. Excuse me. I forgot about Sac State.
Everyone always forgets about Sac State. That's their problem, man.
Right?
I feel bad. Like, it's just a true statement. They're so easy to forget about, which is just so weird. There's just no one talking about them. Anybody, nobody seems to talk about them.
We haven't played them lately too, so that's kind of maybe a recency bias on our part, but yeah, they're forgettable. You keep thinking Sac State's just going to regress back to what Sac State has been, but they haven't in 2 years. They just keep winning. And so
No.
I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like last year and in the last 2 years, you see Sac State take an early exit from the playoffs. You're like, holy cow, they just got their butts whooped. You're like, where did that come from? So I don't know. I think I'm colored with that kind of sentiment, just waiting for Sac just to kind of implode, but they might not. They're on a decent side of the bracket. They'll have to run into North Dakota State. We're getting off topic here, but I don't know. Sac State, yeah, easily forgettable in my mind.
Yeah. Yep. Whatever. Like I said, it feels the final rankings now just feel like who cares? I don't even want to talk about. I mean, the Cats stayed exactly where they are, but that wasn't good enough to keep them in the in the 3 spot, though.
So weird.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk any more about the playoffs. Save that to the end, or just kind of get right into some Cat Griz.
Let's do Cat Griz first, man.
All right. Hey, you got any good stat sound effects queued up for me yet? I know you're laughing because you've been asking me to do that. I got nothing. I got that. Which doesn't work for this.
Totally doesn't match the mood, though.
I only have like 4 sounds on my soundboard.
You pump that.
That's a little bit better.
Pump Moni again, man. All
right, well, let's just do it, man. Let's get in the stats on this one. Your Bobcats, your Montana State Fighting Bobcats, 55, Missoula 21. What a score there. Bobcats pile up 31 first downs to just 23 for the Griz. Cats are 6 of 11 on third down, while the Griz are 4 of 8, which is 50%. Ain't too bad, but, you know, silver linings, I guess, for the Griz there. 2 for 2 on fourth down for the Cats. The Cats actually stuffed the Griz twice on fourth down. Here we go. 561 yards of total offense for the Bobcats, 122 through the air on 7 of 10 passing, and 439 yards on the ground. 65 rushing attempts in one football game. 6.8 yards per carry, like I said, was above our season average. This is basically going to cement this team as the highest yards per carry team in the history of the Bobcat program, which is pretty crazy. Cats end up with 7 penalties. I'm looking at that. I'm like, I don't remember there being 7 penalties necessarily, but when you're winning by 3 or 4 scores most of the time, I don't think you really care too much about that kind of stuff. Almost 40 minutes of time of possession for the Bobcats. Absolutely domination on that side of it. And going back to the Griz, 315 yards of total offense, just 219 through the air. And I'm not sure how much of that. I mean, Lucas Johnson, the starting quarterback, only had 137. So a lot of that was like Daniel Britt coming in mop-up duty, or whatever the reverse of mop-up duty would be. 18 and 29 passing for the Griz. The interception thrown by Lucas Johnson picked off by Rylan Ort. Just 96 yards of rushing the football for the Griz, which is pretty crazy. You and I talked a lot about, is Nick Osmo something we have to worry about? Well, we'll talk more about that. 96 suggests no, he was not. 6 penalties for 45 yards, 3 turnovers from the Griz. Man, those stats are pretty dominant. I want to read.
Hold on, Thorny. So I just want to interject on that rush where you said 96 yards. 64 of those was Daniel Britt scrambling up the middle on base defense.
There you go. Yeah, against our prevent, whatever defense. Like, let's just get out of here defense. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. I want to flip it real quick here. I want to read the 2019 stats because they're super similar. 488 total yards for the Cats. 106 passing, pretty similar. 382 on the ground for 6.2 yards per carry on 62 rushes. 37 minutes of time possession in that one. That's crazy how close that is. 242, but our defense was better that time year. 241 yards of offense for the Griz, just 46 on the ground and 195 through the air for Dalton Sneed that year. Also, I guess two turnovers instead of 3, but pretty crazy how similar they are. And I can't wait to talk more about why I think that's important. But let's finish off the stats, individual stats. Why don't you take that fully?
quickly, what was the 2019 rushing total for the Cats again?
382, which I believe was a Cat Griz record at the time.
That's the one I kept looking at throughout the game. So I was on my phone on the game, watching the game. I was like, we need like 20 more yards to get 400. I was texting my aunt and I was like, and she's like, oh, we're going to get it. I was like, oh, for sure. So, a key stat I was looking at. All right, let's get into some player stats. Let's see. Tommy Malott, player of the week.
Big
Offensive
Sky.
player of the week. Big Sky. Woo! That a boy, Tommy. What a be, man. 6 for 8, 140 yards. We only passed. Did we only have 8 attempts in the passing game?
10.
And we had 9. Oh, yeah. 10? Whatever. Yeah. It wasn't much. We didn't need to. That's one thing we'll talk about too, Thorny, is I think we had a plan to pass the ball on these guys, but they never adjusted. Their defense never adjusted to our run game. And they kept playing a 3-3-5 shell, man. It was just stupid on them. Thank you, Vim, for not adjusting to anything you were throwing at you.
The defensive coordinator.
Gosh, that's like the definition of insanity. Well done, University of Montana. Dumbasses. All right.
Easy.
Anyway, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't because we put it up your butts for 439 yards. Gosh, it gets me fired up. I love it. All right. But Tommy Malott, he had 15 rushes for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. I apologize for my language, too. I've been kind of salty lately. I normally don't cuss on this podcast.
Release it, man. Just let it out. This is what this podcast is for, man.
All right.
Why we're here. People are going to love it.
Yeah. Derek Snell had 1 pass. He was 1 for 1 for 18 pass. Yards. That was a great play. Great play to Trayton Pickering. Elijah Elliott, man, that guy. Love me some Elijah Elliott. 18 rushes, 126 yards. Sean Chambers had 18 rushes for 86 yards with 1 touchdown. And that was a close one. Could have been contested. I don't know if he actually got in. They gave us the benefit of the doubt on that one, but he could have, but it was by the slimmest of margins on that one. Marquis Johnson scampered. He had 6 for 74 with a touchdown. RJ Fitzgerald had a big boy touchdown, 2 for 5. Trayton Pickering, he had 4 catches for 61 yards for a touchdown. Derek Snell had 2 catches for 50 yards. Willie P had 1 for 11. And Stones, let's go. Stones Glessner, 2 for 2. 34 and 28 or 28 and 34. I think that's the order they came in, and he was 7 for 7 on his extra points. I don't have any defensive snaps because MSU did not load up their stats on the game, but Riley Nort had a pick. We'll go down through some Lucas Johnson. Lucas Johnson, 14 for 23, 137. Daniel Britt, like he said, came in and their savior to be, as those guys are calling him. He was 4 for 6. He had some nice balls. I was good.
You just keep giving me stuff to quote, man. You just can't help yourself.
I can't keep it. It's like every week I come up with a new one. All right.
Yeah, this is right up there with the horny hair. Got some nice balls.
I can't stop this year, man. I'm on a roll. Anyways, Nick Osmo only had 10 touches for 36 yards. Malik Flowers, he had 4 for 62 with the 1 touchdown. That's all I'm going to say. Mitch Roberts, 6 for 54, and Cole Grossman, 2 for 46 with a late touchdown. Complete domination by Montana State.
I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if Montana parlay bet on Grossman going over. Like the bet for him was like 29 yards, and he didn't get it until that last touchdown catch. You forgot to mention Callahan O'Reilly and recovering a fumble, and Jory Choate, man, Jory Choate recovering a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown. So some more defensive stats for you, man. Like, yeah, I see those on ESPN. I know that MSU doesn't always update their stuff, but there you go. Those are the big defensive stats, man. Love seeing that. Love seeing Jory Choate get a touchdown.
Oh, absolutely. And he was in a post-game presser. It was good to see like that come full circle for him. That was a cool moment.
How is he a senior?
I know, right?
That doesn't make any sense to my brain.
In the last 2 games, Thorny, here's a stat for you. Stat of the day. Montana State has run for almost exactly 1,000 yards.
Almost?
If you take ESPN's stats and you add them together, it is exactly on the spot. 1,000 yards in 2 games.
Well, that counts. And I'm counting that as exact, which is crazy. That's crazy. Now, teams don't get that in 5 games.
Applause button right there.
Oh, man, I don't have that anymore. What's this button? Oh, no. Okay, there, you've heard them all tonight. There used to be an applause button on here. I think I replaced the golden coolie over the applause. So sorry for all the random sound effects, people listening in. I'm leaving them in, though. So the first thing I want to talk about, unless you got something specific you want to get into.
Do you want to talk about no punts? There's a stat for you.
Has anyone heard from Bryce Layton anytime recently? He's got to be just bored out of his mind. There's not a bad way to get a scholarship, right? You just don't play at all. You're a starter.
If you would have told
You're not
me,
like a backup. You're a starter, and you just don't play because we don't need you, which is just a weird stat.
yeah, I don't think he punted in the last 2 games. Now I'm thinking about it.
No, he didn't punt against Cal Poly either. So there'll be a bye week. So assuming he does end up punting in the second round of the playoffs, he'll be like almost a month between punts.
Go look that up, Thorny. I want to know that. There's got to be some weird stat out there about like how many games or how many possessions we have not punted. That's crazy. If you would have told me going into Saturday that we would not punt and we would score on every possession instead of the victory formation, I'd be like, what? What are you smoking over there?
Yeah, right. Against the Griz of all teams to not punt the ball once. Like, I don't think I would have ever seen that happen. Sorry, I was trying to do some quick research on most games played without punting in a row, but nothing's coming up quickly. That'll be for an offline research. All right. So something I want to talk about. I gave you a chance. Anything else you want to talk about? No.
Oh, you asked me? No,
Yeah, you just
listening to
laughed.
I thought you were going for something.
Okay, I'm just. I want to talk about something that kind of. You've been talking to me a little bit about this on and off throughout the last few weeks. I've heard it on ESPN and lots of other places about how bad of a matchup the Griz defense was for the Bobcats. And I'm like, over here, I feel like I was the only one who was thinking, like, it's not, though. Explain to me how it is, because this is what the 4th time we've played this version of the Grizzlies, right? And the only time they beat the Bobcats was in Missoula when we had the worst running QB version of the offense that we run. We're not going to get into the whole Matt McKay, whatever. He wasn't as good running the football. He didn't. That's just not what he did. So when the Cats go full air, what did I call that? The
ground raid.
Ground raid. That's right. I was trying to think of it. When the Cats go full ground raid, the Griz haven't had an answer. So when people keep talking about how the matchup was so bad, I'm like, but why? Why? It worked in 2019 in particular. I think so many Griz fans were clinging to the fact that the 2021 results with Matt McKay at the helm, like, well, we stopped Tommy Millott when he was in the game for 8 plays. We'll stop him again. That didn't make sense to me either. So don't get me wrong. I didn't envision anything like this transpiring. I just didn't see why it was such a guarantee that they would just lock us down. So that's why I was referencing the 2019 stats. This year's Griz defense was supposed to be just the best it's been and all blah, blah, blah. And we made them look worse than pedestrian for the 2nd time in a row at home.
Absolutely exposed them.
Exposed. Great word.
So it's interesting because their defense, the stunting, the twisting, the pressure's predicated on just getting in the backfield and stopping anything before it starts. Well, here's the deal. if you don't adjust for our +1 run game, it wasn't going to happen on Saturday. And I think that is the thing, Thorny. You look at this, they really made no adjustments for it. They played 5 defensive backs, 2 safeties, 10 yards off the ball. And they told you in the post game, we knew Montana State was not going to pass it. Yet they still couldn't stop the stinking run, man.
It didn't look like their defense was schematically set up to accept the fact that they weren't going to pass it. They kept playing like safeties, like 20, 25 yards off the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't understand it. Like, once, okay,
Why?
You start off with that plan, sure, I get it. You have a game plan. Everyone has a game plan. 21 to zip in the middle of the first quarter. Cats have like 155 rushing yards on their first 2 possessions. I don't know how many times in a row do we run it before we even threw a pass? It was in the 20s, right?
No, I think it was in the 30s, man.
We ran it over 30 times in a row to start the game, and they just sat there in their 3-3-5 with the safeties like 20 yards off the ball. Just like, well, one of these times they're going to pass it to Ravi Alston. It's like,
we'll be in position then.
Yeah, we will be ready.
I mean,
Justin Ford's ready. Especially, that's the thing. So that really boggles my mind. The Griz, especially Griz fans, like, are touting how good their cornerbacks are, but they made no. So, okay, you think you have good cornerbacks? Stack the box. Send everybody.
Exactly.
Send everybody. Leave your cornerbacks on an island and make Tommy Mellott beat you. They didn't.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And it was over. It was over fast. Like, it was clearly that they could not stop the Cats' run game in the scheme they were running. They never did anything different. And thank you. And that's why this was a coaching victory almost as much as it was anything.
Oh my gosh, Taylor Housewright must be sitting up there in the booth going, they're not adjusting. We're just going to continue to run it down your throat. I'm sure he anticipated them stacking the box.
Yeah, right.
Like any adjustment, and you had a call sheet ready for that. All right, here's where we're going with their pass plays when they're bringing the pressure. When they bring up 8, when they bring up 7, even 6, here's what we're doing, guys. They didn't adjust. They did not adjust. They got their asses handed to them the whole game because of it. I think it's insanity. Like, right, like I heard Gus Tutel say that on the Big Sky Breakdown. It's really true. It's the doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Is this just hubris? Is this ego? Is this going, we just know this is what we do and we do it at an excellent rate, but we have nothing else? I don't understand this. This is terrible coaching on the fact for the Montana Grizzlies.
I believe so too. And all week we also heard about the passing game. Lucas Johnson and the Bobcats pass defense wasn't very good. They didn't really test the Bobcat pass defense very much either. So even like on offense, I don't think, like, they tried to run Nick Osmo like into our front four like time and time again. It was their game plan on both sides of the ball was baffling to me.
It was terrible. I mean, we're sitting here just like criticizing them, but they deserve all the criticism in the world. It was the weirdest coaching. Yeah, it was the weirdest coaching display I've ever seen. Like, there was no adjustments on mainly the defensive side of the ball, but holy cow. Like, the weirdest thing. Like, why wouldn't you adjust for our run game? That's our strength. I don't know, man.
Well, you and I talked about how
if they get past SEMO, here's the thing. If they get past SEMO and they get to go play North Dakota State's gonna hang 400 on them as well. So they're gonna run just power at them.
So that's not what I'm sure I agree with. Everyone keeps saying, like, oh, the Cats just laid the blueprint on how to run all over the Griz, but not everyone has Tommy Lott and Sean Chambers at the same time in the backfield. I'm not sure it's quite
North
so
Dakota
easy.
State's different.
They are, but they don't run the same schemes we do. I'm just saying, I don't think because we did it, everyone else can do it. That's all I'm saying. The Cats are a historically elite running program at the moment. They're going to break almost every single record in Montana State's record book for running the ball. All right, I don't think just because North Dakota State's good historically at running the ball that they can run for 400.
But why wouldn't they copy what the Cats did? They can. They should.
All I know is
it's out there on. on film, man.
I'm excited to see because I've heard plenty from the media about how the Griz are a better matchup for North Dakota State. Well, we'll find out most likely, won't we? We'll find out because they're gonna
I don't
handle
know, man. If
SEMO.
they can make it past SEMO, dude. Like, I'm all of a sudden really questioning this coaching staff. I mean, it's easy to hate on Bobby Houck. I mean, that's like number one target. My favorite, by the way, my favorite Cat Griz sign was Bobby Houck skis and jeans.
Yeah, there's plenty of skis and jeans slams, and I was here for it. Well, the thing too, a little bit. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time about the Griz next matchup or anything, but Bobby Houck, his formula, whether he deviates from it or not, that's his downfall. Obviously, he has a formula, and if it doesn't work, I don't know what to do. But it's going to work against SEMO, or very well could. And that's the thing. It's going to be at home. It's going to be overwhelmed opponents. When we saw SEMO come up to Montana State, and they couldn't hang. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But all I know is you and I talked about the keys to victory. One of the biggest keys was if you punch the Griz in the mouth first, they can't adjust. And that was very evident to the way, way bigger extent that I ever thought was possible. But that was what happened.
Absolutely. And I couldn't think about just Taylor Househite sitting up there going, I can't believe they're not doing anything to counteract. He's probably like, this is easy. This is the same play. You want to just keep sitting in that base defense of yours, rolling out 5 defensive backs when we're running at a clip of 439 yards a game. You're going to still play a nickel out there? What the hell? Like, Taylor Househite was probably going, you guys are such dumb sons of guns. Like, what the heck are you doing? Okay, cool. I'll take it all day long. All day long. And we did. We just took their souls. They couldn't stop us. At one point in the third quarter, you're just laughing. You're like, they're not interested in playing. And so it's so funny, Thorny, because when you get up that big, you start listening to Ty Gregorak, Marty Morningweg on the broadcast. And what do they have to talk about at that point? Well, they talk about the landslide. This is 2019. And they start talking about things like, oh, look at those Grizzlies sitting in the shade, all cold and, heartless. And, the narratives start coming out and they start trying to paint the picture of the day. It's just enjoyable. Soak it in as a Bobcat fan. Go back and watch it all.
The two of the worst losses in Cat Griz rivalry history for the Griz belong to Bobby Houck.
He should be fired. That was terrible. Like, at that program, they lost 4 out of the last 6, and they still got into the playoffs. They beat nobody with their winning record. They have lost. Let's see, Bobby Houck in the last 6 Cat Griz games has lost 5 of them. Man, I don't know. I think his name, his previous successes is gaining him a lot of rope over there.
I agree.
I'll tell you that.
Riding his own coattails, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. He's so weird, too. He's so surly and unapproachable and just kind of a dick to the media. Like, I don't know, man. That guy is very abrasive as far as a coach.
I think he likes to build himself up as kind of a villain for everything, which is why it's so damn enjoyable to see him squirm and lose.
One thing I don't understand about the Grizzlies, too, as we're talking about these guys riffing on them a little bit, is once they seem to find something that works, they don't go back to it. It's really weird. It's almost like they don't want any of their players to become bigger than the program. Like, Montana State does a great job of promoting their players and allowing them to be who they are while maintaining team first. Montana, the Grizzlies, they seem really weird. Like this weird culture of it's only Griz, nobody's above the brand. And if you try to get outside that mold, no social media, all this tight restrictions on their character. It's a very odd. The optics of it is very odd to me.
I mean, that's one of my knocks I had on Jeff Choate, is he was a little bit more, he was almost as much about Jeff Choate as he was the program, or at least the program is winning because of Jeff Choate. I don't know. I don't know if you agree with that take or not, but Brent Vigen is completely not that way, and that's evident. And I think Bobby Houck is a bit more like Jeff Choate in the fact that he's the one who He's leading the Griz to victory. We're winning because this is my system and this is what we do. So when you run it like that, then you got to take the brunt of the failures.
Let's talk about Coach Vegan for a little bit, because if you're if you're still on the fence, then have you been watching?
What are you doing?
Fully
as a
on
Bobcat fan?
The Vegan train. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's only 22-2 in FCS play. One of those being his first Cat Griz game, which is, by the way, not an easy thing to do as a first-time head coach. I know the way it went down, coming after a guy like Jeff Choate, and the way that it went down, you're like, oh man, here we go again. We got another Rob Ash, another analytical, this just another game, blah, blah, blah. But whatever reservations you had, let it go, man. Let it go. He just annihilated the Griz, just as big as Jeff Griz Slayer Choate ever did, except he also beats Weber State. He also beats Eastern Washington. He also wins the other conference games that allow you to share a conference championship, which we did by going undefeated.
Woo!
Something Jeff Choate was probably never going to do, right? Because he made it almost too much about the Cat Griz. Like, you're more focused on that, and that's why you drop an egg. That's why you drop an egg. You lay an egg when you play a team like Idaho State in 2018.
In November, yeah.
I mean,
right?
Vegan's got him focused all the time. And it's not just another game.
He is the right coach.
It's just like, yeah, he's got him dialed in still at the same time. And yeah, go ahead.
He's the right coach for the right time, right? He is the guy that we needed to take the next step. And because he's never been that guy that's been about me, I think that's where people's reservations come from. Like you said, Jeff Choate was so many things. And part of that was Jeff Choate. He really liked himself.
He was a good salesman.
It's taken a little bit from me to kind of turn towards Vegan. And I can't hold back anymore. When I saw this affirmed it for me. As I just needed to know, like, if we won by 3 points, I would have felt great about Vegan. But we kicked their butts, man. It was no question about it. In the way he acted after the game, it's not the way you and I are just spouting off right now, espousing. He was just calm, just his normal self. We expected this. It was a good win. It's a good day for the Bobcats. On to the next.
I love it.
You just get the feeling that the Montana State Bobcats are about to just explode into the playoffs. I get the feeling. I don't know about you, Thorny. Here's a little fact about me. I didn't tell this to anybody coming into this week. I thought we were going to kick their butts. I didn't think this was going to be close. I expected this kind of victory.
Oh, you never told me that. I guess I could see why you wouldn't, though, because you're so superstitious.
Yeah, I'm weird. I've told you, I'm weird. I get it. I kind of get into these things. I think we're about ready to just hit a hot streak in the playoffs. I think they tasted it last year. They know what it feels like. They know what it takes. And then we coming off this victory. So, like, whoever comes to Montana State, whoever comes to Bozeman in 2 weeks, God bless them. But I don't think it's going to be close.
I mean, what has Vegan done so far? He's been playing his best football late in the year. Last year, it wasn't until the playoffs, but he made the necessary change to get it done to play your best football in December and go on the playoff run. He's doing it this year. This was the most complete victory of the year, topping UC Davis. And on all phases, on defense, on offense, and special teams. Complete.
The defense is going to have to continue to make strides. That's one thing that's for sure. But I think our offense is so stinking good that we can overcome some shortcomings. Although there is like the Achilles heel is like if we get stopped on running, but nobody really has yet.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it.
Exactly. So, like, and then what happens? Well, I don't know. There was a moment in the game where I think it was Coach Morningweg was talking to Ty Gregoraki, and he said, "Hey, do you think the Cats can go make a national championship run without being able to precisely pass the ball?" What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not going to just easily answer yes, because I do think you have to be a bit more dynamic than the Cats have been. But I also think the Cats have it in them. We
Exactly.
like you said, Housewright had some stuff ready to go to throw the ball more than we did. If we had to, we didn't have to. Tommy Milano is capable of more. Is he capable of putting together a 300 passing yard game to win that game? I'm not sure about that. Is he capable of throwing 175 yards or 200 yards to keep the defense honest enough to continue to run the ball at an amazing clip? 100% yes.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure Housewright was waiting up there saying, okay, if these safeties roll down, we're going to check to this play. They'll look over and they'll check to that play. Never had to happen, man.
You probably saw a little bit of that in the third quarter when we threw it to the tight ends there a couple times in a row. And he's like, you know what? I'm finally going to pull some of these pass plays that I've been just keeping in my pocket all game because the game's over. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get the Alaskan assassin
dump downs. Yeah,
let's throw it to Trayton Pickering so he can completely stiff arm juke Robbie Houck to the ground. Let's do that.
Love it.
No sadness on that.
Ooh.
I would be curious. I think Robbie Houck was a leading tackler in this game. I'm curious. I want to see somebody tally up his missed tackle count. It's probably about the same as his actual tackles. Sorry. He's a collegiate athlete. I don't need to be mean to a kid playing college football. But
when your safeties are your leading tackles,
it's never a good sign.
You got your butts whooped. You got your butts whooped. All right, man.
I did not like his attempt to pile drive Sean Chambers into the ground after the whistle was blown.
I don't think Jared Reimer liked it either.
Nobody should like that. Come on, man. That was just frustration coming out. You can say you didn't hear the whistle all you want. Everyone else heard it. I rewound it to make sure whistles were blaring, multiple whistles. It's pretty obvious. But yeah, enough about Robbie Houck, who will never have to play again unless somehow the Griz go to the national championship and meet us there. That's the only. I didn't speak that into existence, did I? Please no. How about Rylan Ort, man? Let's talk a little bit about Rylan Ort. Let's talk some individual players that we want to call out on this one. He had two great plays that I can think of off the top of my head. Obviously, the interception. He picked off Lucas Johnson in the third quarter, second quarter. I got kind of hazy on it. But the other one I think was more impactful was him tracking down Mitch Roberts after he juked a defender and ended up tackling him on the 1 yard line as he was going to go into the end zone and score. It may have been 28-7 at that point. I'm not sure. It was either 28-7, 35, 31, 7, somewhere in that range. The Griz were going to score and, capture a little bit of momentum. He tackled him and they got a first down. So it was like 1st and goal. But Rylan Ort hustled and tackled Mitch Roberts and took him down. And the very next play is when Lucas Johnson fumbled the ball that Callahan O'Reilly captured, that he recovered. And that's just how the day went for the Griz. But a huge props to Rylan Ort for a couple of big key plays in this game.
It's good to see that. It's good to see him get some more confidence. I knew when he was coming back that it'd probably take a couple games.
Yeah.
It's nice to see. I thought James Campbell was in really good position when Malik Flowers caught that first touchdown.
Yeah, he was.
Like he had his hand right there. That was just a really good play.
I mean, in football, a perfectly thrown ball is going to win 99% of the time. It's just almost impossible. It's just almost impossible to be a defender. Like if someone throws a perfect ball, what are you going to do? And that's what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a pretty good game. Who else really had a good game? It was good to see Danny Yu back. I will say that. He played pretty good. There was one play.
Healthy, man.
There was one play when Malik Flowers broke a tackle and busted to the outside. Danny Yu was tracking him, and he cut behind another Bobcat player being blocked and caught up with Malik Flowers at the sideline and pushed him out. That's kind of one of the things where Danny Yu can do that really Callahan or Nolan Askelson can't. I'm not saying he's a better linebacker. I'm just saying he has more speed and he can make those kinds of plays up a little bit. And that was a pretty cool play to see too. So it was good seeing Danny Yu get back for his first time after an injury. He'll only get more healthy and be more ready to go for the second round.
We're getting shout outs to players. Let's give a shout out to the Alaskan Assassin and Trayton Pickering.
I love our tight ends so
way
much.
Those guys block, seal the edge, dominate. Man, we can't do what we do in the run game without those guys.
100% true. I was rewatching the game, like the first two of the first three plays. Derek Snell like pulled out to the side and just pancaked somebody. It's so much fun to watch. He's mean, man. He's got that,
he's loving
that
it
mean
too.
streak in him. Like, you want that from an offensive lineman. You don't necessarily see that in like a tight end, but he's got that mean streak of blocking in him as a tight end. It is just fun to watch. We got to talk about Tommy a lot again. I don't care. We'll do it again. Made such good decisions in the run game. Make such good moves running the ball. Holding on to the ball, making good cuts. Man, when Tommy's playing like that, the Bobcats are a super tough out.
That is true, man. I think that's one thing that gives me the most confidence going forward in this is having both of our quarterbacks back, healthy. The complement of those guys is just unreal. Like the sweeping motion that we Chambers gave Tommy and he rushed into the end zone. That play is almost. I mean, what are you going to do?
No,
to defend that.
And
it's unreal, man.
I said this when we had when Coulter was on our podcast. I was like, we haven't really seen the full complement of Tommy Mellott and Sean Chambers healthy at the same time in a long time. And I think Housewright kind of waited to spring it, but when he did, man, like Mellott come in on motion out when he's lined up at wide receiver and Chambers was taking the snap. How do you defend that?
Oh, yeah.
How? It's absurd. I mean, there's even more to come.
It's only
as
a
far
sophomore.
As far as I'm concerned,
only a sophomore.
Both those guys back there doing one guy lined up, like eventually they're going to do some crazy passing from that formation.
Mm-hmm.
All they did was run it. And Tommy Mellott was 6 of 8. The only 2 incompletions he had were both throwaways when he was under pressure. I like it.
Special.
Yep.
He's special. Props to him too, man. Just at the end of the game, giving Ashley Washburn that little quote he was talking about, like, don't dehumanize those Grizzlies over there in that bus.
Yeah.
I mean, he just whooped their butts on the field, and that's what he's thinking about.
First thing he's thinking about, like, how bad those guys feel. So leave him alone, kind of. Because, he's like, we were there last year, so he knows.
Yeah.
Love Tommy Mellott.
That's awesome.
He also had the second best quote ever about, like, oh yeah, we knew they weren't going to be gap sound, which is pretty rare for a Division I program, or however he phrased it exactly. Also, low key and brutal. I'm going to add that out. That was low key brutal. He's laughing because I dropped an F-bomb, which I'm going to go back and edit out.
Already said a bad word.
I did. I'll edit it out. That's fine. Maybe I'll use the wah-wah sound over the top of it instead of like editing the whole thing out. Okay. But yeah, that was pretty cold, man. Like it wasn't meant to be cold, but I don't think he meant it the way it came out. But
just honest.
It's like, yeah, it's pretty rare for a Division I football team to be that bad at being gap sound. It's like, damn.
Spin fire. Hey, Ryan, I wanted your thoughts on this because I don't have much more to say, and I don't know if you do, but I did want your thoughts on this. What this day in history mean for Montana State?
Yeah, I'm fine with transitioning to that off the individual accolades, or we can get back to that if we want in a second. But man, it's just to me, it cemented something I've been feeling for a couple years now, especially with COVID. But just the way Montana State has all the momentum over the Griz. And like in almost every single sport, in the city, in the university itself, in terms of enrollment and the trajectory and the the donations we're getting for like building new buildings on campus and business programs and all the donations we've received. And I believe it looked like the Board of Regents approved an indoor practice facility plan coming out of Bozeman. I don't know how we're doing on the fundraising on that, but that's another thing that's happening or could potentially happen here for the Bobcats. It just cemented to me that there's just no possible way other than the way some Bobcats still behave, but there's no way that Montana State's a little brother in this rivalry. There's nothing. They don't do a single thing better. Period.
That's a good point.
So, other than the fact that some Cat fans are still more obsessed with the Griz losing than they are the Cats winning, so there's that mentality of side of it. But looking at the results, the data, like there's nothing little brother about this rivalry at the moment.
No, Montana State's holding court.
I mean, we went to the NCAAs in men's and women's basketball last year. We went to the national championship. We won a national championship in like women's rodeo. It's absurd.
Montana State answered the bell in so many ways on Saturday, starting with College Game Day. They did such a good job with that, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they told the story of Montana really well. They showcased Montana in such an awesome light. It would have been easy to not show up because it was like 3 freaking degrees outside. Montana State, well done, right?
Yep.
And they backed that up with that performance. Just stamped the authority on the foreheads of the Griz right there. And then after the game, we said, we expected it. That's what we wanted. It's a good win for us. On to the next.
Yep.
I mean,
that's the expectations right now.
About walking with the big stick. They are, what I see right now is they are just mirroring Coach Vigen. The way he presents himself, the way he walks, his bravado, his quietness, but is you're not going to mess with me attitude. All of it, man.
It's a great time to be a Bobcat, man. Just an absolute great time. I mean, the Cats had some pressure on this week with game day in town, even though game day is not filming or showing the game itself, which the Griz faithful should be on their knees thanking the Lord that they did not air that on ESPN or something or whatever. Yeah, man, it's a great time to be a Bobcats, and the Cats rose to the occasion instead of shrinking away from it or, having a, oh, here we go again moment. No, this cemented the Bobcats' place in this rivalry right now, and it is at the top, and it is not just football.
All right, Thorny. I think that might be a good spot for us to transition maybe into some FCS talk. Unless you have any parting thoughts on the Cat Griz. I think we summed it up well, but is there anything else you want to talk?
I mean, no, not really. We didn't get to every single player who had a good impact. Elijah Elliott had a great game. I don't think we talked a whole lot about Sean Chambers necessarily. He had a fantastic game. Man, we can get out of here on that, but I wanted to mention a couple more guys, but holy cow. What a great victory. And it took a whole team effort, and it's been building for a few years, and Coach Vigen has been building it, and it's Coach Vigen's program now, and he is got it rolling.
Agree, man. I'm glad you said that. All right. Well, let's transition into a little talk on the FCS playoffs, because we'll talk about more of this next week as well when we start preparing for our actual opponent. But it came out that Montana State was the 4th seed. I was really surprised when we saw that North Dakota State surpassed us, even though they've been behind us in the rankings all year. Man, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, looking at it right now, North Dakota State's going to get Montana again, probably because Montana plays SEMO. But so I wouldn't want to play the Cats or the Griz back to back. Although, to be honest with you, if we play the Griz 10 times in a row right now, I think we whoop them 10 times in a row. I don't know, dude. What do you think about the 4th seed?
I think it doesn't really matter. I was initially upset.
You don't think it matters?
I don't think it mattered.
Sorry.
I was initially upset that the Bison jumped us. I'm like, why? What have they done better? They have 2 losses. They don't have as many ranked wins. Their strength of schedule, I don't think, is as good. I don't have the data in front of me, but it was just very shocking to see them jump us. But it's pretty clear to me that the committee just wanted the 2 top 4, it was going to be an all Big Sky, all Missouri Valley top 4 seeds. I think they just want to split the conference up. That's what it came down to.
Okay.
They wanted, whether it would have been SAC 1, SDSU 2, Cats 3, NDSU 4, I think that's how they would have tried to divide it up so that they're on opposite sides.
Okay.
Or I guess it would have had.
See, I hadn't thought about that. That makes sense to me.
It would have had to have been, I guess, if they still wanted to continue. If Zach was the number 1, it would have had to have been the Cats number 4 still to, or no, either 2 or 3. Anyway, I think that's what the point of it was. And I think no matter how we sliced it, we were going to get another Big Sky. Whether we were 1, 2, 3, or 4, they were going to send Weber State to Bozeman or Idaho. It was going to be either Weber State or Idaho. So I don't think it matters in that regard. You're still getting the homes. If you win your first game, you're still going to be ranked above the number 5 seed as the 4 seed. And I just think kind of your date was going to be Brookings for a semifinal if you make it that far, no matter how you sliced it. I've calmed down off the initial irritation, the shock of like, how did North Dakota State jump us? I don't think it matters as much as you might think when you think about regionalization and the way the committee kind of viewed the bracket. I do think that North Dakota State got the easiest bracket I've ever seen. They got Sanford. If they beat the winner of Montana or SEMO, which is not two okay teams, you got the winner of Sanford, which is I don't know, SoCon team. I don't know what conference they're even in. Although Sanford's got to get past Southeastern Louisiana or Idaho, but Sanford, Southeastern Louisiana, or Idaho, none of those teams are beating North Dakota State in Fargo. And then, unless Sac State wins all the way out, you got Sac State down the other side, who has a short history of losing in the playoffs. There's a chance that the Bison don't have to leave Fargo. If Sac State slips up, the Bison have a home trip all the way to Fargo, and they got Incarnate Word.
Yeah,
it's like that. It's just it's an easier. Wrong, it's a way easier side than the Cat side. But I'm not. Yeah. I'm not upset that we're on the opposite side of North Dakota State, though. At the same time,
seems like our destiny. Well, we're gonna have to face either Weber State or North Dakota. As I said earlier on, I'd like to see Weber State come back. I don't think that's a popular take, but I think Montana State. I mean, go back a month. Yeah, okay, maybe we got lucky on those 4 safeties, no doubt. And that was a weird game with all the special team stuff that was happening. But the arc of Montana State right now, I just feel like we have such good momentum. To be honest with me, I see that game happening kind of like how we played at Sam Houston State last year, just taking care of business, man.
I mean, let's look at the trajectory of both programs since that game. The Weber State was able to squeak out a win at home against Montana 24-21 when Chris Brown was the quarterback. Then they lost to Sac State. They took care of business at Idaho State, and then the final game of the season, they squeaked out a last-second victory against Northern Arizona. Their offense is sputtering. We've gotten better. I don't think Weber State's gotten much better.
Yeah.
This is what it boils down to.
Agree with that. I don't know too much about North Dakota right now to make any comments on them. So
yeah, we don't really
excited to see that on Saturday.
Yeah, we don't have to talk too much about that. It'll be kind of fun to watch that game on Saturday. I'll watch that and the Griz game and just sit back with some beer and some popcorn and watch some FCS playoffs. Go for the Jackrabbits. Although I don't know, New Hampshire, Fordham, and Holy Cross. That's a decent little group right there that can meet South Dakota State, but it's going to be in Brookings. Brookings is going to be frigid.
Played in 3 weeks.
I know, it's crazy. By the time they play that game, it'll be almost a month.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to matter. But I do think, I think our version of the Bobcats right now, offensively, is better than it was when we played South Dakota State last year. Defensively, we're worse. So I'm pretty curious to see if we get that far. I'm not taking anything for granted here, but I think they're beatable. I think we have not a terrible road to Frisco here. I think if we get Weber State, that's going to be our second toughest game besides potentially South Dakota State.
I think for the first time in the year, I feel somewhat confident that we can make it back to Frisco. I'm not saying we're going to, but I could see us it's possible in my mind. If you would have asked me that probably in October, I would have been like, I don't know. I don't know if we're there yet. I think we're going to catch momentum through the playoffs. We might not, but maybe I'm just using last year as kind of a picture for that. But I want to believe that. I kind of feel that.
Hey,
especially coming off that big beatdown with the Griz.
That big beatdown, and then of course Isaiah Fonz is going to be back. Question mark.
Whoa.
Now he can play 4 games in redshirt. Yeah, do we need him? I know. That's the question. How much better can a football team run the ball? The answer is not really any better. But it'd be nice to have him be complimentary piece.
Yeah,
I'm saying the Cats will be healthier in 2 weeks than they are now in a lot of ways. So that's only going to help. All right. Anything else you want to talk about in the playoff bracket here?
I think I'm good, man. Yeah, just kind of wait and see mode. I know we're going to talk a ton about it next week, and so I'm just excited to see some of these matchups. Montana State's definitely on the harder side. And so if we can get to the semis and get to Frisco, I think that would prove to me that we probably have a good chance of winning this. But let's not put the cart before the horse there. There's still a lot of football yet to be played.
A lot of football. So I'm excited to watch more football late into December. Woo!
Love it, man. Let's bring it on.
Bring it on. All right, man. Anything else you want to talk about? Playoffs, Cat Griz? Anything else you want to throw out there for our listeners before we basically sign off for an entire week? I don't plan on doing anything else this week. It's been a long season recording podcast. I'm excited just to sit back and enjoy some football and just relax for the next few days. But anything else you want to throw out here before we do that?
I just want to thank the fans for always just supporting us on our podcast, listening and interacting with us. I mean, this thing is a passion project for Ryan and I. I know it fills our buckets when we get to talk to you guys, and I don't know, this is just fun for us. So thank you guys for supporting us.
Absolutely. We appreciate all the interaction all year. And, without that, I mean, we'd still do it, but it really, like you said, fills our cup. It makes it a lot more enjoyable and gives me a satisfaction that we're making a difference in a little bit in what we do, that it's having an impact. All right. Well, look forward to enjoying some football this weekend. That's not so stressful as that Cat Griz game. That will be nice. Catch everyone next week, man. Thanks again to Manhattan Bank for being our awesome sponsor this year. It's been really awesome having them come on board. You can always find us on the web, rrcatcast.com. You can shoot us an email at rrcatcast@gmail.com. Fully, man, go Cats.
Go Cats.